Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another episode of Find Your Edge. My name is Jordan Nagoli, and I just want to thank you for tuning in and watching wherever you are listening or watching in this world. On today's episode, we are joined by Mitsuaki Uchida. He holds a 6th degree black belt in Taido Karate, and he is the director and head instructor of United States Taido Karate. Mitsuaki has won numerous tournaments around the world, and he has won numerous gold, silver, and bronze medals across the United States, in Japan, and in Europe. Mitsuaki has also trained and produced over 150 black belts over the last 30 years that he has been teaching and leading at United States Karate School. Mitsuaki has also trained me to get towards my black belt. He is someone that I truly admire and cherish. I'm honored to have him on the show today. Sensei, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Seriously, thank you so much for being here. I've known you since I was 12 years old. You helped me get my black belt, and it's just an honor to have you on the show today.
Thank you so much. And having you and your family at Taido has been one of the great blessings. Taido introduces you to so many people. And my father always says the best part about bringing Taido to America is all of the wonderful Americans he's met over the years. And your family's definitely at the top of the list.
Thank you, Sensei. I appreciate that. I know the culture is so diverse. I think in my black belt group, we had 14 different countries represented across 8 students, which was just amazing. Before we jump into stuff, do you remember, it's been a long time, do you remember the day we met when I came into this school? Do you by chance remember? Because if not, I will tell you.
Help me remember.
Okay. It was a Saturday, and I came in wearing a t-shirt and shorts where I felt out of place because everyone else had a gi on. And you took me to the side to hit pads. I was super nervous, and you had me doing stationary punches. You grabbed my knuckles, and you looked at them, and you're like, man, your knuckles are really red. You're going to be good at this. And you walked off. In hindsight, I don't know if that was a sales tactic. It worked. But that moment stuck with me at 12 years old.
That's cool. I don't remember. I don't remember this moment, but it sounds like something like I would say, like when students first experience pain, you can see like students that shy away from the pain or students that are willing to work through the pain. And you were definitely not going to stop punching just because it, was hurting. So it was a good sign. It was a great sign.
It was a great sign. You guys helped me discover my appetite for pain, which
you have to have.
You have
in order to be successful in life.
You have to enjoy it. Yes, you absolutely do. Okay, so there's so much that I want to cover today. But initial question to start. I know the blood, sweat, and tears and long hours that you have to put into being a leader of this Taido school. When you meet a stranger, you meet a new friend or someone out and about, how do you describe to new people what you do for a living?
I tell people like I teach karate, and their idea of what that is very affected by media and what you see. And so, recently people will be more like, oh, you mean like Cobra Kai? And or in the past it was like, or like the Karate Kid. And but actually, our karate school, since my father's Japanese, is kind of like it feels like you've gone into the Karate Kid, because my father has an accent and he speaks a little broken English, and so you have that feeling much more than if you just went to a school where your teacher's American and you don't have your teacher's not saying things like it's raining dogs and cats instead of cats and dogs. Or the other day he was telling a joke, and he was saying the punchline was supposed to be shucks, but his punchline was sharks. But he expected the students to understand, and these are kids, so they have no, straight over there, they have no idea. And so he was telling them, I was doing a front kick, in the ocean and the shark bit my toe. And so I said, shucks. And so like the kids they're like, what?
No idea.
Oh, but me and my coworkers are dying because his humor is like very Mr. Miyagi humor like that. And so, so yeah, it's, when I just tell people I teach karate, you get all kinds of different reactions. When I tell young people, like children, that I teach karate, usually they'll be like, oh, that's cool. And they'll do like a move or something like, wah. And, and other people, I've had people think that it's not a job. Like, I guess because it's based in athletics. So, I've had people be like, I think one time it was, people my own age, and it was when I was in my 20s, and I was leaving a party, and I was leaving on a Friday night, and it was like around midnight, and they were like, where are you going? And I was like, I got to wake up in the morning for work. They were like, you work on Saturdays? And I was like, yeah, I work on Saturday. They were like, what do you do? I was like, I teach karate. And they were like, that's not a job. And it's so funny because, I just thought about it for a moment, and it's like, man, I work like way over 60 hours a week. And, Monday through Friday, like I don't get to see my kids at night. I don't have dinner with my kids at night. A lot of things that people take for, maybe not for granted, but they just take it as a normal thing. Like the family sits down for dinner together and you kind of like go over your day and you have this like family moment. Like I only get that on Saturdays and Sundays because I'm with other people's kids, not my own kids. And, so, when people say stuff like that, it makes me want to like tell them like, you have no idea how hard I work and you have no idea how many hours I work, or the impact that I make in kids' lives or teenagers' lives, when somebody like gets a backflip for the first time or a flying sidekick for the first time, and you see it's almost like a appearance of confidence that the moment before they accomplished the task, it was not there. It didn't exist. And then they land the flip or the handspring, or they finally get, their leg up and kick the bag, and the bag swings really nice. And all of a sudden, bam, confidence. And like, I don't know if you get that selling stocks or working in real estate, which I'm not saying those are not worthy jobs or anything, but it's a really, really rewarding job.
Yeah.
And you can get rewarded, instantly. Yesterday I had a young girl, she's 8, and she was doing cartwheels, or she was attempting to do cartwheels. And so I have this, I have techniques that I use that I didn't, because when I was young and learning to teach, there's no such thing as the internet. There's no such thing as YouTube. So and all I have is my own personal experience and trial and error with the children. And so I kind of taught myself how to teach gymnastics, because I felt like growing up, we weren't doing enough of it, and we didn't have like a set gymnastics class. So then when I started teaching full time, that was one of the first changes I made. I was like, we need to have a specific laser beam focused class on gymnastics, only gymnastics. We don't even need to do any kicking and punching. And at first my dad thought I was crazy, but it became like the most popular class of the week. And then we had to make 2 of those classes. Yeah. And then we had to separate from beginners to advanced, and just start snowball effect after that. But when the kid walks in at the beginning of the class and they can't do a front roll or a back roll or a cartwheel, and by the end of class, or even by the middle of class, they're doing it and they're having fun and laughing and smiling and enjoying it, it's really, really gratifying. And so even though sometimes people, try to belittle you, it's like, so rewarding. So, and plus people tell me, when, someone like yourself who started as a child and then came up through Taido, and they tell me like years later, like, it really helped me in this way, or it really helped me in this way, or I went through a rough patch and Taido's training helped me through that rough patch, or, all of these helped me in my job and helped me in my marriage and all this stuff. So it's very rewarding. And like I said, sometimes it's years later, somebody will come up to me and tell me. I had a lady came in the office the other day, last week, and she looked really familiar. And I told Musashi, I was like, I think her son used to do Taido. So I walked into the office because she was like in there looking around, and I was like, did your son used to do Taido? And she was like, yes, he did, about 8 years ago. And I was like, Martin? And she was like, yes, Martin.
You remember?
She was like, wow. And she was like, because he was only here until purple belt. So that would be like 8 months, 9 months that we were teaching him. But I recognized her. I remembered her son's name. She was like, I just wanted to come in and tell you that he's now in college, and he's doing taekwondo or karate or something in college, but that he wanted to do that because he had such good memories of doing Taido. And so he asked her, can you get me a shirt? And so she stopped by the office and got a shirt and a magnet, just randomly after 8 years. So random. But, we're pretty good. All of the senseis are really good at remembering names. So a lot of times I run into people at Publix and I'll be like, how's Joey? Or how's, Christine? And they're like, how do you remember my kid's name? Like after this many years? And it's just like, I think most school teachers can tell you the same thing. And I would say even with school teachers, they only have the kids for like a one school year, but I get the kids like yourself, 12 years. So,
or 15 years now. I
yeah,
started at 12.
So in many cases, even if I didn't see you for a decade, I have, good memories, and I can remember people's names. And now I'm friends with, they were kids and then they got to high school and then they went to college, and now we're friends on Instagram, and they're like out in the world doing all these adult things. And it's really cool to watch people's growth. And yeah, man, it's really cool.
Everything you shared is a great example of what makes US Taido so unique. For a lot of people listening, I know a lot of people that are in the Taido community will be listening to this, but for those that don't know what Taido is, and specifically US Taido School, could you explain how many active students you guys have, and then just give a brief overview of what Taido, the martial art, is?
Yeah, so we have about 325 to 350 active students. I would say pre-COVID, that number was quite a bit higher, maybe closer to 400. And it might be actually a little lower. It might be closer to 300. But we are clawing our way back from all of the COVID craziness. But we are the largest single Taido dojo in the world. And as far as I know, we're the largest single karate school in Atlanta. So there's other franchise karate schools in Atlanta. They might have more students total because they have like 5 franchise locations or whatnot. But for a single dojo, single location, I don't think anybody in Atlanta has over 300 students like we do. So we're like industry leaders, and definitely in the northeast metro area. And we teach traditional karate. It was invented by a Japanese gentleman who was born in Okinawa. His name was Seiken Shikumine. And he invented 2 martial arts. The first martial art he invented was Genseiru. So he started his karate training at a very young age. Mm-hmm. And when they were doing this type of training in Okinawa, that would be pre-World War II. So we're talking like in the early 1920s, maybe early to mid 1920s. Let's see if my math is correct. Maybe late 1920s. And at that time in Okinawa, you didn't have like karate schools. You were teaching people out of your backyard, or you had maybe some small workout dojo on your own house's property. It wasn't like you go down the street to the karate school. And masters were very, very selective about who they wanted to teach. So they would often, we do a tryout lesson so the kids can try it to see if they like it. But in Okinawa, in the old days, you went and tried to petition the master to teach you. And so when Shakuni Sensei started learning karate, that would have been like maybe at the most 5 students for the master. He had like 5 pupils, and then he would train them. And then eventually they would either continue on teaching that style, or in many cases, they would develop their own style. And Shakuni Sensei developed his own style called Genseiru. And when you look at Genseiru, it has a lot of Taido in it. Like you'll see kicks and punches and you're like, oh, I know that kick. That's Taido. But then it also has stuff that's much more like traditional karate. And so Shakuni Sensei wanted to change it. One of the reasons he wanted to change it is because after the war, Okinawa became like US occupation territory. So many Americans were living in Okinawa and start learning karate. Then if you have a Japanese guy who's 5'4", an American guy who's 6 foot, and they're both equally skilled at karate, the bigger guy will always win. That's why boxing and wrestling, kickboxing all have weight classes. So you don't have that huge disadvantage. And so Shakuni Sensei, one of the things he wanted to do was he wanted to alter karate in a way to where your size advantage means much, much less. And it's very similar to what Elio Gracie wanted to do with jiu-jitsu. And what he did with jiu-jitsu was take the fight to the floor where a person's weight means so much less to them, and then you use leverage. And Shakuni Sensei's philosophy is very similar, except it's with kicking and punching instead of, grappling and wrestling. And his idea was that you need to move and not be so static and don't stay in front of the person. And then they'll have a much harder time using their weight advantage. Actually, their size can become a disadvantage if you have the correct strategy, because then when the larger guy really overcommits, they lose balance more than a smaller guy. So then you have more of a window to hit the person back.
Yep.
So Taido is like really unique in that way. And another way it's unique is that it incorporates gymnastics into its daily training. So once the kids pass like yellow belt, they will start doing yellow belts. And purple belts, we only do gymnastics in the class, the gymnastics specific class. By the time they get to yellow, we do front rolls and back rolls as a warm up for class. And when they get to blues, it's like weak side and strong side cartwheels for warm ups. So it's in a lot of martial arts, when you see people doing flips, that's something that they practice on the side that they only do like on stage or to make a video to post on social media, like backflip kick or something. But it's not really in their sparring or in their forms. Whereas in Taido, it's fully incorporated into the forms, into the sparring, and it's treated as something to be practiced that's just as important as kicking and punching. So it has a lot of value and weight in Taido. And then the footwork.
Yeah.
So once you add the footwork with the gymnastics and with the idea of constantly moving around and tilting your body and dodging, it becomes a really unique looking martial art. I think that when people see Taido, they're naturally drawn and become curious because it has a flow. It moves very flowing, but it's also very big and dynamic, and a lot of flying kicks and people going on the ground and then jumping into the air. So
it's beautiful to watch. And having had friends come over the years that had never, everyone's heard of karate and seen it, but when they see Taido and they see the hokes, they'll reference it's like a beautiful art form. You're almost watching a synchronized dance. Well, for the synchronized hoke, you really are. Can you explain the belt rankings and how those differ for children and then adults?
Yeah, so the adult belt ranks follow the traditional belt ranking system, which is what like judo in Japan uses. and some of the earlier karate styles that went into the belt system. So the belt system comes from judo. It doesn't come from karate. The idea that practitioners would wear belt colors that would represent their skill level is something that Jigoro Kano, the guy who created judo, he came up with that idea. And it's, genius idea. You can look at someone and know basically what techniques they need to be working on just by looking at their belt. I don't have to know what that guy did in the last class, the last time he was here, what he's been doing the past 2 months. I don't have to have any knowledge. I can look at his belt and I know what he can and can't do pretty much. And so it's a very genius idea. And so the karate schools immediately adopted that. So in judo, it goes white, purple, green, brown, black. That's the order of the belts. And they call them Q, like fourth Q, third Q. I think it starts at 6Q. So it goes backwards. It starts at 6th, and then when you get to first Q, that means you're almost black belt. And most of the earlier karate schools use that same system. We have a different set of belt colors for the children, where we have added a yellow, a blue, and an orange that don't exist in the original adult system. And that's because the children test more frequently. When my father first started teaching, he noticed like the Japanese style of you get a white belt and then you practice everything you need for purple. And then 6 months later, you test for purple and then you get your purple. Americans are very much interested in fast results. So the idea that I'm going to put my child into karate and they're not going to progress for 6 months before they get their first test is like a very non-American idea. So my father noticed in the beginning when he first opened his school, I need the children to test more often so that they are reaching goals quicker. Adults can understand the long-term goal. Children need to be like, okay, so how many classes do I need to do until I get a test? This type of thing. So we used to have a chart. It gives you an idea of how much smaller the school used to be. We used to have a chart, like a big poster board with every child's name on the chart. And you would come and get like little star stickers and put them on the chart. And the chart was like a mural. It went all the way down the wall and it was just like poster board after poster board connected to each other. And man, I had my attendance up in like the 1,000 number of attendance.
Yeah.
Like, cause some of us, me and one of the guys that I grew up with, we went to Taido like 5 days a week, 4 days a week. And some days a week you're doing 2 classes in a row. And so we were really high in the charts. And so one of the first things I did when I took over was I was like, oh, we got to take this thing off the wall and everybody's got to get their own individual card. And when they come to class, they get a sticker on the card. And by the time they get to this number, so for like a white belt, it's 16 classes. So if they're doing 2 classes a week, which is what we recommend for a white belt beginner, it takes them 8 weeks. So in 2 months, instead of 6 months, like in Japan style, in 2 months, they'll get their first test. Then they get stripes on their belt.
Yep.
Then they get their second test. Then they get stripes on their belt. Here's the crazy part. Japan puts stripes on their belts now. Furthermore, the other day I saw a YouTube video of Japanese kids doing Taido and they had yellow belts. So,
but they did not confer with you before they.
No. Opposite. They want to try to tell us that we are being too non-traditional and that we are losing our roots. But it doesn't matter how strong your roots are if your school is empty. You can have the strongest roots in the world if you don't have students. It doesn't matter. Doesn't
That's
matter how
powerful.
good of a teacher you are. Doesn't matter how good, your karate style is. You got to have people in the door, And so that's why we do Samurai Santa the day after tomorrow. My dad is going to dress up in a Santa Claus outfit / samurai outfit. So he's got the red Santa Claus coat, but he's got like the Japanese war helmet and the face, like a ninja mask. He's got swords, and we're going to decorate the school and go through a lot of work and trouble so that the kids can have something special that no other karate school has.
Outside
Nobody
of training
else.
too.
Nobody has nobody. Yeah, outside of training.
Nothing to do with training.
Nothing to do with training. And so I went and bought like $150 worth of Kit Kats from this Oriental food market. Asian food market. Oriental is in Europe, guys. So I went to the Asian food market and got green tea Kit Kats and strawberry Kit Kats, which you can't find anywhere but at Asian food stores. And it's red package and green package. And so tomorrow night, the teenagers were going to have like a string. We'll cut the strings and we'll tie 2 Kit Kats together in a nice little bow. And we'll put them out on these plates that you usually serve sake on, these like these big sake serving things, trays. But we'll put all the Kit Kats on there, and then the kids will get this. Today I'm going to go print out cards, and it has next year, 2022 is the year of the tiger. So one of our black belts took the time. I'm sure it took her a couple hours to draw a tiger wearing a samurai outfit, holding swords, and it says Year of the Tiger in Japanese, and it says from Samurai Santa. So then the kids are going to come, they're going to line up, and as they're lining up, my brother and my other half Japanese students, 2 of them who can write in Japanese, are going to quickly be writing the child's individual name in Japanese on these cards. So they'll have a card that says Year of the Tiger from Samurai Santa. It has my own name written in Japanese, Johnny or Carl or whatever, written in Japanese. And then they'll get the Kit Kats and they'll come in, and my dad is hilarious. I have no other word for what he does. He comes in and he's like, he doesn't go ho, ho, ho. He comes in, he draws the sword, and he's like, ho, ho, ho. And the kids are all just like in awe. It's like half Santa, half samurai, sword drawn. And then he starts telling them about his trip from Japan to our school. And he does this on the fly. This is all on the fly, making it up as he goes along. And so he'd be like, children, Samurai Santa, this year, I got a jet ski, and I jet ski from Japan all the way to Hawaii. And when I got to Hawaii, I had a special dinner with Hawaii 5-0. So like, I'm almost too young. I'm 44. I'm almost too young to even know about this show called Hawaii 5-0. It's an old show. Our parents watched it, and it had this. It had a theme song and everything. And I'm barely old enough to remember seeing reruns of this show. And that's what he's telling to the kids. He's like, I had a dinner with Hawaii 5-0. And like the kids they're like, Hawaii? They're like, no idea. In come his reindeer helpers, which is like black belt students that have been dressed up with like reindeer antlers, like the party antlers, and some of them have lights in them, and they're carrying like the gifts, and he's got them tied together using white belts. So he's got them all in like the Christmas reindeer train, and like he's it's really funny. It's really funny. And there's the evil ninja Grinch who tries to
have added so much more.
who tries to stop him every year. And so they have epic battles. And so my father tells them about the Battle of Honolulu, the Battle of Anchorage, Alaska. He starts pulling out cities off the West Coast just out of nowhere.
Just making them up.
Like I didn't know he was like so good at American geography. Like he's like the Battle of Portorando, and the kids are like Portorando. He's like Portorando, and then my brother has to be like Portland, Oregon, Portland kids, Portorando. But then he has no idea that there's like a lot of social strife going on in Portland. And so he's like, Portorando. And I'm like, no, why Battle of Portland in this current times? Like,
any other place, Dad.
Yeah. Like, no, not the Battle of Seattle. We don't need that. So, I grew up watching a guy constantly go the extra mile to make his students feel special, to make his students feel like not just special, but like they matter, like that they have value. So that's what I learned. So that's what I do. So we're gonna have Big Samurai Santa, and the only thing that really scares me is that eventually my father can't do it. And so I guess one day I'm going to have to be Samurai Santa. And then I'm going to have to, I guess, fake the accent, But I guess since I'm half Japanese, they can't accuse me of culturally appropriating the Japanese accent. So I got to start practicing my ho, ho, ho. So funny.
I think you're doing a pretty good job right now. So
he's so funny.
It's clear you guys go above and beyond for your students, way outside of just training the martial arts. I think it's one of the reasons why you have had such a successful school over the last 4 decades. I want to give people some perspective of where this started. So can you share the story of Shakuni choosing your father to send him over to the United States, and then explain how he met your mother? Because I think you having the parents you do is a big part of your personality and who you are today, and it's all connected. So I just want people to understand that background.
So my father he was doing karate already when he was in junior high and high school. And so he was already a black belt in karate style called Shotokan, which is pretty much like the first modern karate style. The guy Funakoshi is a really famous guy who invented this style. And really he did a couple different styles of karate. And so what he did was he standardized it. And so my father was a black belt in that. And he was particularly good at sparring. Then he went to university and he saw a Taido demonstration, the guy doing backflips and round off handsprings. And he was like, this is karate. And so he was like, it was so cool and so dynamic. And he was like, it looked like what he would think a superhero would move like mixing gymnastics with your attacks.
You're flying through the air.
Exactly.
Basically.
Yeah, really. And so he was like, I got to learn this. And so he joined the Taido club at his university. And every year, Shakuni Sensei would visit their summer camp. The university club would go to the beach and practice on the beach. And then I think on the last day of camp, Shakuni Sensei would come and he would test people. And so that was how he was kind of, I guess you'd say, discover my father. So you have Shakuni Sensei comes, and it's more than one university club. It would be like 3 clubs get together so that they have a nice big group of people. And the first time when my father was a white belt, Shakuni Sensei came, and while they were training, he was like, this guy's really good, pointing at my father.
While your dad was a white belt?
While my dad is a white belt.
Wow.
He's like, this guy's really good. And next year, summer camp, this guy, hey, you're the same guy last year. Really good.
Wow.
Yeah, that's me. Us. Then third year, this the best guy. Same guy. And so he caught Shakuni Sensei's eye just through the training with, 70 people on the beach training. He's catching Shakuni Sensei's eye. And so then my father, when he was finished he was at Tokyo International University. When he finished, he went to the United States and he wanted to get a degree in the United States. So he was doing like a student exchange program, and his hometown is sister cities with Omaha, Nebraska. And I don't know why, because the weather in Omaha, Nebraska has nothing to do with my dad's hometown is like the weather of Savannah.
So that's their partnership, Omaha?
Omaha. And so my dad went to Omaha and lived on a farm and went to a university in Omaha, lived on a farm, not a university, a college, and did farm work like cattle and all that, raised pigs. And it was, for a guy who grew up in urban Japan, it was like so different. And he really fell in love with America. So he went back to Japan and by this time, Shakuni Sensei knew him by name. Mm-hmm. So he went back to Japan, and his next opportunity when he saw Shakuni Sensei, he said, I want to go to America. Like, I'm going to go to live. And I want to teach Taido in America. And I want to teach Americans your art. And I want to build cultural bridges. Because this is like 1970, mm-hmm. right? So we're still only like 25 years away from atomic bombs. So 25 years, it's not that long of a time. So he wanted to come to America. And so Shakuni Sensei said, yeah, okay, I'm going to test you. And if you pass the test, you can go to America. And so he tested him on the roof of the Taido building in Japan at that time. It had a roof. And it's flat roof. And he said, like, let's go up on the roof and do a test. So they went up on the roof and he's like, do your best Hokei. One Hokei. That's your test. One Hokei, do or die. Show me what you got. Begin. So my dad does his favorite Hokei. And he's doing his Hokei. And he's like, the best Hokei he's ever done in his whole life. And he gets to the end. And Shakuni Sensei's not in front of him. He's like, wow, my master made a new technique. He not just disappeared himself, but the table, the chair, everything gone. Then he hears laughing from behind him. So he's basically finishing with his ass to his master, butt to the master, finishing.
Not good.
And so he's like, so now in his mind, he's like, fail. I'm totally fail. So he sits down. Now in Japan, you can't correct yourself. In America, if you were to have a mistake in a tournament, you can correct yourself. In Japan, you have to sit in your mistake. Like you have to sit and like marinate in it. So my dad has to seiza facing the wrong way, 180 degrees the wrong way. And Shakuni Sensei starts laughing and he was like, not Mitsunobu, my father's name is, he's like, Mitsunobu. He's like, I know you're thinking that you failed this test because you're facing the wrong way and you had such a huge mistake. And he was like, but actually, you are already facing to America. Pass. Take it to America. Wow. If that guy said fail, I'm not sitting here with you today. I'm not even alive. My dad never comes here. None of y'all do Taido.
No.
If that guy says, what a mistake. What a huge mistake. I'm not sending this guy with his mistake to America. Take my art to America, this mistake guy. But he saw something, so he was like, you go, you take it. And so my dad was like, okay, I'm going. So then next thing was where to go. And he was familiar with Omaha, but my grandfather has had severe arthritis to the point where he needed like a cane to walk. He couldn't just walk without a cane. And so he was like legally handicapped. And so he told my father, you cannot live somewhere like Omaha where it's cold. He's like, and then I can't come visit you. And so he's like, you got to pick somewhere that has a more similar climate to our hometown. So my dad got a Greyhound bus ticket, $99 for 99 days. You get unlimited Greyhound use of the unlimited use of the Greyhound bus system. 99 days for all 48 states, contiguous states, plus Mexico, and I think some parts of Canada.
Wow.
But not, he said Alaska was not included. And so he said he started his American tour, and he went all around. There's some, I don't know if you've ever seen that picture of him in his, it's the coolest picture that he's ever had. And we don't even know who took the picture, some random person that he asked to take the picture for him. But it's him doing Chudangamai facing the Grand Canyon.
Oh, it's epic.
You know what I'm talking about?
Oh,
it's really good. It's like the most unbelievable photo.
It looks fake. It's like,
yeah, it looks almost fake.
It doesn't even look
it
like
almost looks fake because there's nobody it's the North Rim. And that's why it looks fake.
What year
it's
would
not
that be?
It's not the South Rim where all the tourists go. It's the North Rim that, the North Rim's only open like half the year.
Yeah.
And so the North Rim has places where it's like, there's nothing in the background but Grand Canyon.
And that's the 70s, right?
Yeah, in the 70s.
So
it's super cool.
Yeah.
Man. It's super cool. And so he went to all 50 states. All 48, the lower 48.
Yeah.
And he did a little bit of Mexico, and I think he did British Columbia, and I think he did Toronto. And he said that when he got to the city of Gone with the Wind, because Gone with the Wind was a huge, successful movie in Japan. And so he said he got to the city of Gone with the Wind, and climate's very similar to his climate in Japan. People are really friendly. It's not too far from the beach, because he was already thinking, I got to have summer camps and take my students to the beach.
Wow.
And if I'm too far in the interior, that's a huge logistic problem. So, we're only 5 hours from the beach in Atlanta. You can go down to the Georgia coast, Savannah, Hilton Head in 5 hours. So it just felt like it was a good place. Atlanta was an up and coming city. Some Japanese companies had just moved some of their operations to Atlanta, like Makita, the power drill company, and YKK, the zipper company, and Honda. I think their lawnmower engine division is I want to say it's over in Duluth.
It is, yeah.
And so it was like an up and coming city too. It was like on the rise. And so he was like, this is where I want to plant my roots. So he chose Atlanta and opened his first Taido school over on Buford Highway.
In what year?
We've been to El Rey del Taco over on Buford Highway, the Mexican place.
Many times.
It's almost right across the street from that,
Got
the
it.
original Taido place. So it's like 1 mile inside the perimeter.
And what year did he open the first one?
1975.
Okay. Wow.
And that was Buford Highway, 1975. And he was living in the Taido School. So he had one of those little single portable stoves with a little butane canister on it. And he was living in the dojo, which was illegal at the time. You couldn't be living in those. It wasn't like for residents. So he was living in the dojo, and that was how he met the owner. So you have the landlord, the guy, that you interact with, the manager of the property, and then you have the owner. And so my dad is sleeping in the dojo, and it's the only storefront where the windows are all fogged up because somebody's been in there all night long sleeping, right? And so the owner, not the manager, the owner of the property comes every Sunday morning and cleans up the parking lot. The owner comes, broom, dustpan, walks around sweeping the whole parking lot of his property to make sure he wants to make sure it's done right and it's clean. And he knocked on the door. It's like, why is this place all fogged up? The only one in the whole row. So he knock, and my dad comes to the door like his blanket, and he's like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "Oh, I'm just having a nap." And he's like, "Are you living in here?" He's like, "No, I'm just having a nap." And he's like, he's like it's 6 o'clock in the morning on
Napping,
Sunday.
huh? It's a long
You have a
nap.
nap. And so, yeah, he's that was how he met the owner. And so it was like his first really good connection with someone who was already established, financially in the business world. And so that was how he met the owner. And the owner admired his work ethic and gave him a good deal on the lease and everything. And that was when Taido started. And then my mom, she had a previous marriage. And so my oldest brother, technically he's my half brother, but we grew up together. So we don't view each other as not being anything but full brothers.
Yeah.
But, so he was like maybe 5 years old, and he had, so random, totally random, my older brother had a Japanese friend in his kindergarten class, and they became close friends. And his Japanese friend invited my mom and my brother to go to their house for Thanksgiving dinner. So my mom's a single mom. So they're like, "Oh, let's invite the single mom and her son and to Thanksgiving dinner." So my mom went to Thanksgiving dinner. And so she was like, "What can I bring?" And they were like, "Bring a dessert." And so another totally random thing. "What can I bring?" "Bring a dessert." And so that's my mom's best. My mom is a very good cook, but she has a couple desserts that are just like, they're restaurant quality. Like if you took it to a restaurant, people would be like, "Oh my gosh, I'm coming back here just for this." And so one of them is her apple cake. And she made an apple cake. And at some point during this party where you have a lot of people, my father asked the host, because he was teaching my brother's friend who's Japanese, Taido. So my father asked the host, like, "Who made this apple cake? This is so delicious. Did you make it?" And she was like, No. One of my son's friends' moms made it." She was like, "Let me introduce you." And they were like, "Oh, she's single." I'm like, "Let me introduce you." And so that's how they met. And so every Thanksgiving we have apple cake at my house.
I never knew that.
Just a couple weeks ago, I had apple cake. And that's like, my parents always joke, like that's what made my dad want to marry my mom, was the apple cake.
The apple cake.
And so, but it's funny because some people think like my father married my mother to get the green card, but actually my father already had a green card before he married my mother, because he met the owner of the shopping center, and the owner of the shopping center introduced him to his good friend, and his good friend's son started taking Taido, and his good friend introduced him to his good friend who happened to be a politician and who happened to have some sway in the immigration. And so he was like, I can put you at the front of the line.
Damn.
So my dad had a green card long before my parents got married. And so when my parents got married, that was my father and 4 other Japanese senseis and my mom living in a 2-bedroom apartment. 6 deep.
And
6 deep, 5 guys.
so people
5
know
Japanese dudes.
your mom is
Japanese dudes in Japan and in Korea. I mean, in most of the Asian countries, men get waited on, like, just throughout your whole life. It's just part of the culture. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying it's how we should do it, but I'm not saying that at all. I'm not even saying that I admire that. I'm not saying that at all. But what I am saying is that that's how the culture is over there. And so you can imagine, like, my mom's like, "So they don't do laundry?" And my dad's like, "Just do the laundry, you know?" And so my mom's like, "So they don't vacuum? They don't mop? They don't clean?" And so, yeah, that was like how my parents started out. And, yeah, 6 people in a 2-bedroom. And, My mom's a Georgia girl. Like she was born and raised in West Georgia,
man.
and she's a country girl. Like they grew up with growing their own vegetables and raising chickens and very country girl. And so at first there was a little bit of, I wouldn't say resistance, but there was a little bit of hesitancy from her family. Like, are you sure you want to marry an Asian? Like, are you sure you want to have mixed race children? Are you sure you want your children growing up with a man who was raised Buddhist, not Christian? Like there's all these things that my mom's family was like, are you sure about this? Are you sure about that? But I will say this, the cool thing about my mom's family is that once my mom was like, decided they're getting married, they fully accepted my dad. He never felt like he was a foreigner or out of place, which I think is pretty cool because my mom had 7 brothers.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah, 7. And she's the only girl. And so, there's a whole dynamic there. And so, yeah, a lot of people wanting to protect her, because she's the only girl and she's the second youngest. So she's the only girl and she's the second youngest.
There you go.
And so, but it's really, I think it's a testament to how my grandmother raised them, that they were very open-minded to her marrying a foreigner. And, they had some, I think they just wanted her to really think everything through. Because, this would have been 1976, 1977, interracial marriages, especially in the South, were much less common. And having interracial children was much less common thing and nowadays it's so common. It used to not be. So that was really cool that all 7 of them were very accepting of my father. And plus they thought that it was the coolest thing that he's a karate master. Like, so, I mean, Elvis did karate and they were all raised, Southern. Did he really? Southern, yeah. No, I know. Man, every time I just do like these references, I feel so old. Yeah. So yeah, he was, one of the things he was famous for was that he did karate. And apparently there's a story of when Elvis met Led Zeppelin, one of them dropped the F-bomb and he was like, hey, no cursing. And he like karate chopped one of them. And the guy was like, I think it was John Paul Jones. He karate chopped at him and he was like, flinched and it hit his hand and it like broke his watch. And apparently Elvis was like, oh man, I was just kidding, man. I'm so sorry. And he's like, you take my watch. Cool story, Yeah. But yeah, Elvis did karate. And so, and also at that time, there had already been some of those, like Bruce Lee was coming out at that time in the mid to late 70s. And so there was already some martial arts getting exposed to Americans. So the fact that my dad was like a karate champion and he was like karate master, that was like really cool aspect for them. And also like, I think my another part of that is my mother's family grew up very poor. And so out of 7 brothers, I think only 3 of them went to finish college. I think more than that went to college, but I think only 3 finished college. So, my dad having degrees in 2 different countries also is like my wife having 2 degrees in 2 different countries. Yeah. You can be like, yeah, you have an accent and maybe you're not American, but you have 2 degrees in 2 different languages. So maybe I should be a little bit more cautious of my judgment of you. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
A little more respect.
Exactly. Exactly. And so I think that there was a little bit of that too, where they were like, he's highly educated. He's a master at this cool karate thing. I mean,
he can protect her and care for her.
Who's what's safer than to be married to a guy who's like a master in hand-to-hand combat? So
what are you going to do?
Like, exactly.
So they meet and they get married and you're born shortly after. What are some of your memories when you reflect on your childhood? And because the school was not big then, you're just getting started and your dad's figuring it out, your mom's figuring it out.
My earliest memories are of the dojo, being at the dojo, playing with my toys at the dojo. watching my dad teach classes before I could, crying because I couldn't join class. I was too young. And once I hit my 4th birthday, they let me start.
Which is young.
Now we start at 6 because 4 is really, really young, man. You're barely potty trained.
Yeah.
Like you're not even in preschool yet. So you're not even like really been exposed to learning from outside your parents, which sounds like you're like, what? But like for a child that like crossing that boundary of, going to school for extended amount of time, and for a child to mentally transfer their trust over to a teacher, because kids will have a hard time and they'll cry the first day or first couple of days. Sometimes it's like a thing that the kid will need therapy for, and so this turning over of the trust is I think a very special thing, and so yeah, when I was young, I wanted to do it, but I couldn't. And I can remember crying in the office and my mom being like, next year, you'll be old enough to do it. And then when I first did it, I can tell you about my first class. So my first class, man, I was killing it. I've been watching this, right? And I'm 4 and I've been watching this, and I have my gi on, and it's been hemmed up like an absurd amount to fit my little body. And I get out there and we do stretches, and I ace it, right? And I'm like, no problem. And then side stance for punching, I'm like, I'm good. He's like, he has to tell a couple other people to switch their hands, not me. Doing single punch, double punch, triple punch, no problem. Then he says, get set for uraken. And I was like, what the fuck is uraken? And I looked around and everybody was doing this. And I was still doing the punch stance. So I was like, oh, uraken, okay. He's like, etch. And they're like, bah! And they do the back fist, And I was like, I don't remember ever seeing this. And if I did see it, I don't remember seeing it. So like, what is this?
Yeah.
And so my first reaction is to raise my hand. So I raise my hand. And so not my father, but one of the other Japanese guys that's teaching, his name was Yamauchi Sensei. He comes over to me and he goes, no questions, hand down. And I was like, I don't know this. And he goes, copy. And I was like, okay, I'm copying. I don't know what's going on, and I can feel it, man. And then I start crying, man. Yeah. And as I'm trying to copy, I'm crying. And it's like the thing that I wanted most has become like, I want out, and I want out right now. Oh. And so I'm like, and, but my dad is the one leading class, even though he has a couple of the black belts walking around. My dad is leading. So it's like, come back. And he was like, now we're going to go to the kick. So I'm like trying to do the kick. And, I did a kick, and I'm sure that it wasn't good. But he was like, Mitsuaki, that was a good kick. I'm back. Tears are done. Oh, I'm good. I get it. And, he has that power, man.
He does.
One little, like, hey, that was good. And it's funny how it makes you like, you want more. You want him to notice you again and again. You want that compliment again and again. And like, you're willing to bend your knees and just burn out your muscles to get that compliment. So when he was like, good kick, that was it. That was it for me. Done. I was hooked. I wanted to do Taido as much as I could. My parents had to ban Taido in the house because I was doing it in the house all the time. And it was just making noise and bugging everyone. And I did get a little bit in trouble on the street with the other kids. Not for bullying, but if it became physical, I did moashigiri. Other people hit with their hands, and I did roundhouse kick. And it's not a good trade. One of the my next door neighbors punch me in the arm, and then I kick him back in the arm. That's a very bad trade for him. And so I had to get disciplined a little bit for using Taido, but I never went around just like kicking people, punching people, picking on people. But if it got physical, I was always like, I thought it made sense to you. I thought I was like, that's why I learned this, isn't it? So if somebody tries to hit me, I can kick them. And so yeah, I had to be disciplined a little bit about, when it's appropriate, and, your next door neighbor is maybe not the guy you should be kicking.
Got to represent the family well. So you were always in love with Taido from a young age. There was never a point as a kid, because I know, myself included with other sports, sometimes your parents have to be like, no, you're going to do this and we're going to make you go. So there was there ever a point?
There was a little phase there where I went through that. And that was when my father really started doing business outside of Taido. So he was, he through Taido, he met so many people, new contacts, and he started to want to bring Japanese businesses to Atlanta. And he was like, I can be the bridge. I speak English. I speak Japanese. I live here. I understand both cultures. I can help bring Japanese companies here. And so that's what he started doing. And it became a very good business for him. And I mean, he was making exponentially more than he was ever going to make doing Taido. And so when he started doing that, then he was at Taido less and less and less. And some of the other black belts had to do more of the teaching. Then he ran into a problem where he didn't really have anyone that he felt like could take over Taido. And this was probably early 90s. And so he was like, I don't really have anybody none of my students are at the level to take it over. But, he was thinking long term, like he wants to have retirement and kids to college. And so he can't stop doing this like really good business that he's doing as a business consultant. So he basically asked for volunteers. And the guy that volunteered wasn't my father. He wasn't even close to being as good of a teacher. And so within a couple of years, we had lost so many students. And it got to the point where Taido was losing money every month. Yeah. And so my father was like, he felt like he had made enough money doing his consulting business that he was financially going to be okay to retire. And so then he was like, I'm going to go back full time into Taido. And so he told the guy that had been doing it, he said, I'm coming back. So you're going to have to, go find a job. So that guy went off and found a job, and Sensei came back and immediately starts rebuilding and repopulating.
Yeah. And how old are you when he comes back to full time?
That would have been like 94. 14.
Okay.
Maybe 93. I would have been like in 10th grade, because I don't think I was driving yet. So I'd have been like 9th grade, 10th grade. So about 14. And so yeah, between the ages of like 11 and 14, I would still go to Taido, but I wasn't loving it.
Yeah.
And I was really just doing it because there were other people behind me that I didn't want to pass me.
Which is a big factor to keep people motivated too.
Yeah. No, they're assholes. And so I wasn't going to let them pass me. And so I would still go to Taido. But there was a long time there that I didn't enjoy it. And during that time, the guy, I mean, he tried, this guy. But I mean, when we did international competition, none of the teams did well. The quality had dropped so far that it took my dad a couple of years to bring it back.
Yeah.
And then that coincided with me starting to teach children's classes. So I would do 4 children's classes a day, and then leave. So I'd work from basically like 3 to 7 and be done.
Yeah.
And then I'd go, like, I was still in high school, but we started building it back, and then we started making changes. And I was like, man, we can do this better and this better and this better. And like this, I don't even know why we're doing this. And so much of that stuff was just stuff that he had implemented, the guy that had been managing. So
you yourself started having ideas as a teenager. You were getting heavily invested. When
yeah,
you started
because I grew up
teaching.
at Taido.
This was your life. This was.
Yeah. And I also, I mean, I guess it's like when you're a teenager, you can think in a very like conceited way. So you think like, I know what's wrong. I know how to make it better. Of course, I'm a teenager. I know everything.
Yeah.
Right. And so then it's like, I didn't doubt. I had no doubt. But also we didn't have any students, so it didn't matter. If I fucked it up, it didn't matter, because we had so few students. So we were trying to bring it back. And it was like, I told my dad, I was like, we need to have a dedicated sparring class. Why do we not have a dedicated sparring class? The kids bring their pads to every class. I used to bring my pads to every class, hoping we would do Jisen. And we would often do Jisen, maybe the last 10 minutes of class. And you get like 2 matches. That'll be it. And I told my dad, I said, we need to have a fully dedicated Jisen class done. Like, that's what we have to have. And so he was like, well, you're going to have to change the schedule. And I was like, thank you. That's what I was waiting for him to say. Because my father can be kind of like that. He doesn't want to give you the job, but when he does, you got to take it. Because he might change his mind later on. So you take it.
You got to do it right.
Take it and do it right. And so I took the schedule. I redid the schedule. I started implementing the classes that y'all grew up on. Like having a Jisen class was not a normal thing before I started Taido. Wow. Having a gymnastics class like on Friday night was not a normal thing. Having a blue crash pad, we didn't have that before I started teaching.
Just crash.
No, we're doing it on the floor, man. People would get injured. And the one thing as a teacher I don't want is for people to get injured, because then I don't see them next week and I don't see them next month, maybe.
Yeah.
And like, it's the one thing I want to avoid. I want to make people tough. I want to make the workouts hard. I want there to be that element of like, you got to have, guts and everything, but I'm not interested in people going so hard they get injured. Like, one of the parents that isn't coming to Taido right now because I guess they were like flipping monster truck tires over and over going across like, the gymnasium floor. And I was like, why? And is that like a skill worth getting injured for?
Yeah.
Flipping truck tires. Like, I don't know. Like I would be more interested in obtaining a higher level skill. If I'm going to get injured, right?
Yeah.
Than flipping truck tires or dragging things behind me and pull my back or do this or do that. So I want people to sweat and I want them to leave tired and, like they had a crazy good workout, but getting injured is not fun.
No, and you guys have always promoted safety and doing things the right way.
Yeah, and I think we have a good record.
Yeah,
really good track record.
You have a great record, especially for having that many students in a dojo at one time. It's easy to get hurt, and things happen. At the end of the day, things happen. Everybody gets injured, but you guys take a great amount of safety and caution. So when you're a teenager, you start teaching, your dad starts giving you more responsibility. What age did you get your first degree black belt?
First degree black belt, I was 16.
16. Can you share with me your memories of getting that first degree?
Yeah, we Shakuni Sensei was coming. That would have been 1994. Shakuni Sensei was coming for summer camp. And actually that was the last time he visited us, was 1994. And actually that's not true. I think he visited us one time after that to do the opening at the new school. So that was the second to last time he visited us. But it was the last time he went to summer camp with us. And so he had 2 Japanese bodyguards that came along with him that were like in their 20s. And we were going to go to the beach and do summer camp. And so my father's like my black belt group, right? Because you had your group, you all had your groups. Like my black belt group was about 15 people. And so, including my older brother and I tested
Mike.
together. Yeah, Mike, we tested together. And so, Shakuni Sensei too.
Oh, wow.
He was doing his Nidan.
Okay.
When I was doing my Shodan, he was doing his Nidan. And, I think that's correct. And, my father's like, if you think that you're going to get, you're only going to have to do one form, one hoke, and then that's it, because that's what Shakuni Sensei does for testing is one hoke, and you're going to get a black belt. He was like, you dead wrong. And he was like, your black belt test is going to be in 3 parts. So the 2 Saturdays leading up to summer camp, me and my 15 compatriots showed up at Taido, and we did, I want to say it was a 2-hour test. We did a 2-hour test on one Saturday, came back the following Saturday, did a 2-hour test. And then the following Saturday, we were at the beach, and then we did our hokes on the beach for Shakuni Sensei. And it was a hard test, man. The ones at Taido, the one at the beach was easy. The ones at Taido were killer tests. And I think Sensei wanted to make a point that nobody gets to black belt without paying the price. And we paid the price, man. Because that was when we were doing the summer camp in late July. So hottest part of the summer, no air conditioning, just the doors open, no air conditioning in the middle of the day, like at 1, 2, 3 p.m. on a Saturday. And it's just hot. So hot. I can remember looking outside in the parking lot, you can see the heat waves coming off the cars because it's so hot. And I almost passed out, man, during that one of those sessions. And then we went down to the beach and we did the test on the beach, and I received my first degree black belt from Shakuni Sensei. Not my father, from Shakuni Sensei. So it was really cool. It was really cool. And
how did that feel to get it?
Amazing. Surreal almost, like your wedding day, like when y'all have your first kid, like really surreal in my memory. And a lot of people, my father got promoted that night.
Oh, from what rank?
He got 7th degree that night. That was the night he got 7th degree.
So you get your
that
first.
Was the last night he was promoted.
You get your first, he gets his 7th.
Same night.
That's beautiful.
Same night. And I want to say he was either the first or second black belt in the whole world that Shakuni Sensei promoted to 7th. He was one of the I want to say the first 5 that he promoted to 7th degree.
Wow.
So that was when Shakuni Sensei was, shows how much of a high opinion he had of my father. And he said something so funny that night. Everybody was getting promoted, and you know how it is getting promoted, guys. Everybody's crying, and the other black belts were getting promoted like to 2nd degree, 3rd degree, 4th degree, and everybody's crying. Da, 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 da. And then Shakuni Sensei gets up on the mic and he says something in Japanese, and my father starts laughing, and he's like, "Sensei says he wishes he could get promoted tonight too, and that he could cry and be so happy as everybody else." And like, that was, the Grandmaster was like that. He was a very cool guy. Very cool guy. And yeah, that was his last summer camp. And I gave a speech that night. Man, this is a crazy night that we're talking about. I gave a speech that night. So LaPena comes up to me that night and he's like, "Hey, you're giving a speech." And this is at dinner. Like, we're already at our tables, da 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 da. And I was like, "What?"
You had
no
idea.
No idea. And he's like, "You're giving a speech, 15 minutes. And I was like, "About what?" And he was like, "About Taido." And I was like, "Okay." And he walked off. And so I was like, 16 years old. I have no idea what I'm going to say. I don't know what's going on. So they gave me the mic. I'd never actually spoken in front of the school before. Right? Like, this in this way formally with a
Yeah.
microphone. I'm like 16. So I'm like, I get up there and I'm like, I'm just like, I'm like, what does Taido mean for me? So like when I think of Taido, I think of this and that. And I was like, I think of my father and my father's hard work and all of the times I didn't have my dad at my basketball game because he had to do Taido, or at my football game, or at my tennis match, or anything I did that was extracurricular outside of Taido. My father saw very, very little of that. And so if he came to one of our games, it was a big deal. We tried really, really hard to show him how good we are at that
Yeah.
sport. And so yeah, I was just talking about how my family, sacrificed a lot for our Taido, and that I think I got caught up in the moment of everything. And so I was like, public, I guess you could say I make like a public declaration that like I'm gonna do Taido for the rest of my life. Like this is my thing. And I was like, I will do this for the rest of my life. And I told Shakuni Sensei, Taido will never die in America because I'm going to do it, and my kids are going to do it. My grandkids are going to do it. And so I made like a oath that night to do Taido for the rest of my life. And it was good. I mean, there was a lot of people in the audience that got emotional. So I guess I did pretty good. And Shakuni Sensei really enjoyed that. And it's nice because my family had such a close relationship with him. And so many people view him as like, the master from far away. But my memory of him is more like that of a grandfather. Like I can remember sitting in his lap and playing with him and him teasing me, and just so much like closeness to the man. So yeah, that was a crazy night. Yeah, I announced at 16 years old that this was going to be like the thing, my life's work. And here I am.
Here, you've made it your life's work. So there's so much you're sharing I had no idea about. You gave that oath, which I'm going to imagine 30 minutes prior, you had no intention of making that oath.
I was like, I'm not doing oaths. I mean, I wasn't even sure what I was going to talk about.
Knowing how you grew up and the traditions and the culture, that's a really serious oath to make, because it's not like, hey, I think I want to be a doctor. Hey, I think I want to, go into this industry. And then you're in college and maybe you'll switch and change. You make that oath at that age. There are people that are going to hold you to that. When you said that at that time, did you feel something shift inside of you? Did you feel like this is now?
Well,
I have to hold
I
this?
felt like it's that feeling of like I'm attaching myself to this, period. So almost like religious, like
Yeah.
I want to be saved, or I want to convert, like that type of deep, deep, deep thing that just, like I said, it wasn't my intention, but it just kind of welled up inside of me. And no, but it really had a lot of meaning, because while I'm speaking, one of our students who's Japanese, I would like stop and they would translate. So Shakuni Sensei was hearing what I was saying, like almost in real time. And so when I was like, I dedicate my life to Taido, he knew what I was saying at that moment, because it was immediately getting translated.
Yeah.
And when I was like, nothing is going to ever stop me from teaching Taido. My children are going to do Taido. My grandchildren are going to do Taido. Taido is our thing, at least my family's thing.
Yeah.
My brothers, they do whatever they need to do, follow their dreams, but this was my dream. So yeah, I guess it was always my dream, and I wasn't planning on saying that it was my dream when I got up there, but then it just kind of came out. And yeah, that was the first time I cried in front of everybody.
At that speech?
Yeah.
How can you not, man? I feel like it's a culmination. Number one, you got your shodan at that event.
Yeah.
Your father gets his 7th degree, and then you're told to make this speech in front of men and women you have loved and respected and admired
Yeah, yeah.
your whole life. So it's a culmination of all these emotions. So at 16, you make this oath. Walk me through the years in between, I guess, from 16 and then to where you went teaching full time. Like, did you go to college? I'm not even sure about any of that.
Yeah. So then I graduated in 95. And then
From high school?
Yeah, from high school in 95. And I was never like some people, like my younger brother, Musashi, he had the dream to go to a big university and to go to school at a big university. So he went to Auburn and then he transferred to UGA. But that was his dream. Like, I want to go to a university. I want to be like, I want to tailgate. I want to have that football game day culture, and I want to have classes, with people my own age and all of this type of thing. And I never really had that ambition. So when I finished high school, I just wanted to I thought I would do some community college, take some basic courses that I could transfer maybe to Georgia State and go along with that. But that first year after I graduated from high school, I was now free from morning to evening to focus on Taido. And it was almost like the dam broke. And once I was done and I didn't have to wake up high school starts so stupid early. I was waking up at like 6:30 every morning to be at school by like 7:15,
Yeah.
And so it's like, once I was able to devote time and energy towards Taido, it was weird. It felt natural, like for me to go to Taido. Like I would wake up, take a shower and go to Taido and be like, okay, what problem can I solve today?
Yeah.
I can organize this. I can fix this. Because so much of the stuff that was going on at Taido was not of my doing. It was of my father's doing or the previous manager guy. And so, like the first year was a process of me making it my own and adjusting things to the way I felt like they needed to be adjusted. So I like that first year after I graduate, I changed the schedule. And then I start adding, classes that we had never had before. And then I started implementing the cards with stickers to get your stickers. And we added a stripe. Some people don't know that. You might have been there long enough that you didn't have a green stripe on your white belt. It might have been white, red, white, gold, and boom. White, red, white, gold, and boom. And that green stripe I added.
Did that cause?
Yeah. Well, at first, yeah,
argument.
It did at first, but it needed to be done because, or at least with the children, it needed to be done because they were actually getting through the belts a little bit too quickly. And so, yeah, everything just like the requirements for each belt level, I was not happy with what the requirements were. That was like writing a novel. That took many man hours to change it. So the fact that y'all learned Hienzuki when you're blue belt instead of green belt is something that I changed. Like I changed a lot of these things because I grew up in Taido. So I remember hating doing the same hoke over and over and over for like multiple belts. And so those were some of the things I wanted to change immediately. I wanted to make it more fun, less repetitive. Like I can tell you, I don't know how y'all feel about it, but the most boring way to start class is to stretch and then stand up and then do side stance for punching and then do front kick. I don't need to come to Taido to do that. I can sit at home and stretch and do side stance for punching and front kick because that doesn't require room. And so like I doubt very seriously either any of y'all here have the memory of me starting class with side stance for punching and front kick because I hate that shit. I hate it. I hate starting class like that. To me, it's boring. To me, what I like to do, I like to start class different every time so that nobody knows how we're starting class. And I think it has a feeling of being fresh instead of like, dude, I mean, it felt like to me when I was a kid, the first 10 minutes of Taido I could do on autopilot. We're going to run 10 laps, and then we're going to stretch, and then we're going to do side stands for punching, single, double, triple, uraken shito, and then we're going to do front kick. And then after all that review as brown belts, right? As brown belts, after all that, now we can finally start doing. To me, it was like, I told my dad, I was like, I'll tell you what it makes people feel like. It makes a student feel like I'm coming into class and I know calculus, but for some reason you start every class with addition flashcards, but I know fucking calculus. So why are you showing me a flashcard that says 3 + 4? Why? It's almost insulting a little. So I don't start class like that. And I think starting class like that is incredibly boring. And it's not my opinion as an instructor. My opinion as a student, as a child student, as a middle school student, as a high school student, and as an adult student. If you're starting the class every single time the same way, your technique is stale, I think. So
hearing you share your story for the first time, I don't know why I ever put this together. One of the reasons what makes you so great at what you do and connect with everyone is you have been in every single person's shoes at some point. There's no part of Taido at any age that you have not experienced yourself. And I don't think there's many people that have that, if any.
Yeah, maybe my brother.
Yeah. A couple
people.
But even then have had it as a student, but then have had it as an instructor along the way. Because part of the requirements for us to get our black belts is to teach, but we're teaching a class a day, maybe 2 classes, maybe a couple classes a week. You're there every day. You've been there at every age. So when you're influencing, making changes, it's not because you want it to be your way and in control. You've had the experience and you want to have it to be best for the next generation.
Yep. No, and that I just want to make it fun so people want to do it
and stay around.
You know, and keep people's, loyalty and their consistency.
Because it's a school and a business.
It is. If it's not fun and people don't come, we're going to close.
Yeah.
So, it's all about, it has to be interesting and intriguing and fun, or people won't come, at least in the numbers that you need to be successful.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing, the reason why we are the best at Taido in the whole world, like nobody's even close. There's nobody in Finland, nobody in Japan, nobody in Sweden, nobody's even close. And it's because none of them do Taido as their job. Their job is not Taido. Their job is, I'm a school teacher and I teach Taido twice a week on the side at such and such club. None of them are doing Taido 6 days a week for 30 years. And your performance is totally based on whether you can keep your students or not. Like if you have a Taido club and I go to like the UGA gym or the Georgia Tech gym and I have my times per week, if nobody shows up, what? Does nothing. The lights still stay on.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Nobody comes and repossesses the mats and things. But at my school, it's exactly like that. It's a business. And if we're not teaching well, people don't come. So nobody in the world's even close to us, because nobody in the world goes to bed thinking about Taido and waking up thinking about Taido and has lunch thinking about Taido like I do. My whole life is like, how do I make Taido better? How do I make it more efficient? How do I get more students? How can I make it more fun? That's all I think about. And if that's all I think about, and I'm a very driven person, some dude doing Taido twice a week in Finland, he has no chance to match me. No chance. So that's why we're the best Taido school in the world, because I watched my father growing up. He eat, sleep, drink Taido. That's what he did. So I don't know any other way to make the school than to eat, sleep, drink Taido. Maybe there's some other way that involves me not doing that, but I didn't learn it that way. So, and I haven't discovered how to make it like that. Every time I start to decrease the amount of time that I'm doing Taido, it will have a negative effect on Taido. Somehow, a class won't be as good. The schedule won't be as efficient. Something, it's got to be constantly tended to. And it takes a lot of dedication to do that. And there's just not that many people who are like, I dedicate my life to Taido and I will do that. But my father did, and I did. And that's why we're the best Taido school in the world. Like, not to be, sound arrogant. That's just, when you're doing it full-time professional and everybody else is part-time, there's going to be a difference. So
I don't think that's arrogance, Sensei. I think that's confidence. And I think that's taking pride in what your father built and how you've helped take it to the next level.
Yeah. So that's why when Japan Taido was like, you need to march to our tune, we were like, yeah, no thanks.
Yeah.
We are growing. Every other Taido is shrinking. We are the only Taido association in the world that grows. So for them to try to tell us how to run things is beyond ludicrous, because they're failing, So, yeah. But it's so sad because I want to see Taido grow globally. I think it's such a wonderful art. I think it has so much to offer people. I think it opens up doors to other things. Like, so many of our students got into parkour or tricking because they grew up doing gymnastics at Taido, or Nick is a personal trainer.
Yeah.
Like, that's all because he grew up in Taido.
It's all connected.
And so he's telling me, he's like, Sensei, I do so much Taido in my personal training. He's like, I don't tell people it's Taido, but a lot of the footwork and the exercises and the drills. And he was like, do you know how good for your body the Nengi practice is? He was like, that develops muscles that don't get worked unless you do weird things like that movement, Yeah. And so he's like, he was like, Sensei, it's just so genius how Taido really works the whole body, and it keeps your body young, keeps you limber, keeps you young, keeps you fit. So yeah, it's just, it's a wonderful art, and we take it very seriously.
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, man, I can remember being bored, and I can remember not liking doing this, not liking doing that. I tell you, another thing that used to be very different was summer camp. Summer camp used to be very different. And every year I tried to make it better and better. And some of the things my father really resisted. Like, one time I was like, I need you to go down here and do games with the kids. And he was like, games? And I was like, yeah, do the animals and do the watermelon. He's dead serious. He's like, I'm here to teach. And I told him, oh, okay. And I said, so then I'm going to go play with the kids and you go teach the adults. And then when we switch, you can teach the kids and I'll play with the adults. And he looked at me. He's like, I don't get to play? He came here to teach, right? He's like, I don't get to play? And I was like, I thought you came here to teach. And so
you do a good impersonation of your dad.
And so he was mad. He's like, I came here to teach. And so he did. He took the adults and he did the training part. And then he took them and they did tug of war and the watermelon and da 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 da. And he was like, later on, not even that same day, later on, a couple of days later, when we're on the beach, he was like, hey, that was a really good idea. You're switching like not everybody in the water and not everybody doing this. He was like, you broke it in half and we take turns, and it never felt like we're waiting for somebody to do their thing so we can do our thing. And so like, because I remember hating that at summer camp, like waiting for whatever the group ahead of me to finish the watermelon, because we didn't have enough swords or we didn't have enough watermelons. We didn't have. So then how many swords do we take down? We take like 10 swords, 30 watermelons. How many circles? We usually have like 5 circles going. Dude, you can ask Vance. Back in the day, that's 1 circle. And you have to hope. I hope that I'm the one child who gets picked out of this fucking huge circle of 120 kids. And we have 3 watermelons, 1 sword. And we don't even have a blindfold. We've got belts tied around people's eyes.
The OG ways.
You know, I mean, just like, and so I told my dad, like little by little, I was like, we got to do this. We got to do that. And no, I remember the summer camp when I told him I'm buying 5 Bokuto swords. He was like, what for? And I was like, for watermelon. And he was like, we just need 1. And I was like, no, we just need 1. If you only want to have 5 people out of 100 do the watermelon busting. And I said, but if we have 5 circles, everybody can get 1 turn. It's like, wow, yes, good idea. And I was like, I'm glad you liked it because I already bought the swords, you know?
Executive decision.
Executive decision. But, you know, so much of what I do is based on him too. Like I don't want it to sound like there was so much that needed changing, because the core of what Taido is Sensei's style of teaching that I just copied. You know, his style of teaching and his way with people is really what the core of Taido is. And all I wanted to do was make the things on the periphery operate smoothly so that we can put more focus into what is the core. Because when the things on the outside are not operating smoothly, you can't teach well. You can't be, you know, you can't give your full attention to the teaching because you got to worry about this and that and that. And so just try to be a little more organized, streamlined, and fun. Always try to be a little more fun for the students. So now we have kickboxing class every Wednesday night. Yep. I was having trouble getting people to come on Wednesday night. It was just a normal black belt class. And it had gotten down to like 5-6 students a night. And I was like, I got to fill this place up. And so I was like, we're going to have kickboxing class, and we're going to buy gloves, and the people have to have gloves, and we're going to come in and do like real kickboxing. And so now last night, that was like 12 people. It was 5 people 2 weeks ago, but now we got gloves and we're doing this. And so I'm constantly learning too, constantly learning, constantly trying to, adapt and change, tweak it so that I can get 5 more students here, 2 more students there, so that everybody's spending their time wisely and the students are learning. But it takes a lot out of you. Sometimes when I come home, my wife will point out to me that I'm exhausted and that I don't have energy for my own family. And so I have to, the hardest thing for me has been to find the balance place of where I'm at Taido enough, but I'm also at home enough. And I'm still like able to like be coherent with everything. Cause my kids, they are just like I was in high school. My kids at elementary age are waking up at 6 o'clock, 6:15 to get ready for school. It's really early. So then I wake up every day with them at 6:30. And when you get home from work past 11 and you wake up at 6:30, by Friday, that takes a toll. Like you can do it. Like, I'm a man, I can do it. Sleep deprivation, no problem. By like Friday, I'm like, my speech is slurred and can't get my thoughts, lined up. And so it definitely takes a toll. It's being a small business owner is you work way more hours than you ever do working for someone else.
Oh yeah, and make less money. A lot of time.
Yeah. So when we used to go to summer camp, we would go in a convoy. So everybody meet at Taido at 5:30, right? And 80 cars. And we start lining them up around the parking lot. And then we all leave at the same time in this huge convoy. Drive. If we were going to Hilton Head, we would drive down to Dublin, Georgia, which is about halfway. Stop at McDonald's, get out, stretch your legs, just like we did on the way to Panama City. Stop at McDonald's halfway, and then the rest of the way. But we do it. We have CB radios, and we're doing it like all lined up. People used to think we were a funeral procession, and they would like go over to the side of the road because you have such a long line of cars with their lights on. And so
I never thought of it that way.
a couple funny situations where that happened. So
bring your mic down just a little bit.
So I have the Shakumanes are in the car with my parents, and he had brought like 2 young bodyguards with him. So they were in my car. And my traditional role was to bring up the rear of the convoy. So I would be the last car back. If anybody had car trouble, I would stop and help them. And so my dad's leading the convoy, and I'm all the way at the back, and we have our CB radios, And so I'm making sure that everybody's left the McDonald's where we stop halfway. So I'm like, I go inside, make sure nobody's in the bathroom. Everybody's gone. All right, we can go. So we're probably by 2 or 3 minutes, the last car to leave. The whole convoy's gone. I'm going to have to play catch up a little bit. So we pull out, we get out on the highway, and we're driving. And like, after like 10 minutes, like we haven't found the convoy yet. And so, Musashi was like, dude, we're going the wrong way. So after we had gotten back onto the highway, I took the highway back to Atlanta instead of going towards it's on 16. So I took 16 west instead of east. And so 10 minutes later, and like the CB won't reach that far because now I've gone in the opposite direction and I can't even CB back to my dad. Yeah. So I'm sure he's like asking me if people have left, asking me if he can like speed up to highway speeds, because with the convoy, you can't just get on the highway and go highway speed. You got to be like, kind of keep it slow till everybody's on the highway. And
what year is this?
94.
Oh man. So no, there's no GPS. There's none of that.
We don't even have cell phones.
There's nothing.
We don't even have cell phones. No cell phones. Okay. So pagers, we had pagers, but I have to stop and use a payphone to use a pager. So, and so we're in my mom's Camry. And so I'm like, we got to turn around. And so there is it was the first time in my life I had ever broken the law like this. But there was the place in the median where the police cross. And there was a lot of traffic, man. And I was just like, hit the brakes, turned it in. And I bet these 2 Japanese guys in the back were like, what the fuck? So we do a U-turn using the police turnaround, going through like the dirt trail in the median. And so I got the Camry on this dirt trail, get back on the highway, and I'm kicking it, man. I'm like 16, and we're doing like 120 down 16 to down Highway 16 to catch back up to the convoy. And so they can tell, man, that we're traveling pretty fast. And so one of the guys says something to Musashi in Japanese. And I'm like, what do you say? And he's like, he wants to know how fast we're going in kilometers. And I was like, you better lie to him. And Musashi didn't lie to him. Musashi told him, he was like, 210 kilometers. And the guy was like, oh, okay. Click. And the other dude was like, click. And they're like, I'm sure these 2 25-year-old Japanese guys are just like, we're in the car with these 2 American teenagers. We're going over 200 kilometers an hour. We're going to die in America, far from home. And so we finally catch up to the convoy. CB, like I start getting back.
You made it back.
Yeah, we caught up to, you're going 120. You catch up quick. And so finally caught up to them and got in range of the CBs. And I was like, hey, everything's fine. We're, everybody's back on the road. You can speed up now. But yeah, that was my first time going over 100 miles an hour. I'm
And you're
not
last,
proud.
of course.
I'm not proud to say it was not my last time using the police cut through across the median. I have done that once or twice in other situations that were emergencies and required it. So
For Taido.
for Taido. But yeah, that was it just goes to show how long we've been doing this, man. There was no cell phones.
Come a long way, man.
I mean, GPS wasn't even invented. That
Listen,
wasn't even experimental technology at that time. So
it's been so long. The convoy has been, what would be the right word? It does not exist anymore. People go down early.
Oh man, talking about making changes. I told my dad, I was like, one year, I told my dad, I was like, why do we do this?
Yeah.
He's like, it's safer, people together, da da da. And I was like, it might have been safer back in the early 80s, late 70s, right? But I was like, now, like, it's really unnecessary. So most of y'all grew up. I think you did a couple convoys, right? But these other guys, they're like,
I did yeah.
You did convoy?
Yeah, and I did 4 of them.
There you go,
yeah,
man.
And they were brutal, man, because we had to wake up. The first convoy we did was the day of summer camp started. So we woke up at 4 a.m.
That's how it was. It was Friday.
And I remember
it was not the day before. It was Friday
I got
morning.
there and I was like, Shonda, I really thought this was part of training. I was like, man, it's sleep deprivation. This is part of it. And I was like, they got this whole sick plan, man.
Yes.
These people
dehydration,
are crazy.
Yeah. They stick you in this car and make you drink like caffeinated colas for like 4 hours so that when you get on the beach, you have no water in your body.
Speaking of that, this is not planned that I wanted to talk about this, but I had a question for you. When I tested for my 2nd degree black belt, and to give everyone listening that's not familiar, for your 1st degree, you're going to test at the Hambu, and it's kind of changed over the years. But for the 2nd degree, you'll typically test at a summer camp or something along those lines.
Yeah, or a big event.
Yeah. So you tell me that I'm going to test. And that Friday night, man, we trained all day. We had the black belt dinner. We have the party at night. And then, man, you came back to our place and you were playing ping pong with us. And it was late. You had me up until 4 a.m. Sensei. You had me up till 4 a.m. And I remember thinking to myself, I was like, I think he's doing this to me on purpose. Then we were up at 5:30 to go do 1,000 punches on the beach. And I just wanted to ask, do you recall intentionally doing that to keep me up? Because
not intentional, but it is kind of like part of the whole thing is like the sleep deprivation.
I tested up for my 2nd degree off of 1 hour of sleep.
Yeah.
And I remember finishing my last Hokan. I was like, I can't see. I can't even see straight.
Yep. No, that's part of it. It's part of it.
I figured.
Yeah.
Okay, so I know we don't have that much time left. We got about 30 minutes before we got to get you out of here. So I want to pivot a little bit and just talk about, you devote yourself to Taido. You make an oath at 16. At what point do you feel like your dad really started to trust you and pass the torch over to you to lead the school?
So I got my black belt when I was 16. And then when I was 18, so 2 years later, it might have been my 19th birthday. Sensei had to go to Japan for, I think somebody passed away, and it's not a family member, but a close friend. He had to go to Japan, and there was no way he's not going to be able to go. And it was the couple weeks leading up to summer camp. So it was me, and at the time we had a Japanese gentleman who was teaching full time. His name was Hiyoshi. And so it was me and Hiyoshi Sensei. And basically my dad was like, I have to go to Japan. I have to do this. You need to plan summer camp.
At 19.
Yeah, at 19. He was like, you need to plan summer camp. He's like, everything. He's like, you got to plan the dinners and this and welcoming and all of that. And he came back 2 days before summer camp. So he went to Japan and he was able to meet with Shakuni Sensei while he was there, And so he came back on Thursday on Wednesday. And then we leave on Friday morning for summer camp. So he came back on Wednesday and I had summer camp all planned out. And I had done it as a student so many times. And so at that time I was a little bit hesitant to make changes. So I only had a few little tweaks in there that I'd changed. But it was mainly just a normal Taido summer camp. And when he came back, I thought something was up because he came back and he was like, I want to teach you this hokei. And when he started teaching it to me, I recognized it was the hokei he used to do at demonstrations that he never taught anyone. And that I had to learn by looking at videos of him.
Yep.
And so he starts teaching it to me formally. I'm like, oh, this is awesome. So he teaches me this hokei and I learn it on Wednesday night. And of course I'm like, I don't want to forget it because my sensei can kind of be like, let me show you this. And then he'll show you like twice and then won't show you anymore. and like either you remembered it or you didn't. And you got to ask somebody who did. And so he was, I was like stayed late after he had left and was practicing it over and over just to make sure. Cause it was like, I always thought of it as my dad's hokei because it was the hokei only my dad did. And he only did it on special occasions. And so it was really cool to learn it. I was like, I learned my dad's hokei. So then we went to summer camp and we're down on the beach and it's the final workout and we pass out belts, right? We do the whole belt in the surf. And I'm under the impression that we're ending camp because I'm the camp director and there's nothing else on the sheet except like go get dressed for the banquet. And so I'm like, all right, so we're going to line up and close the camp. And so Sensei is like, no, wait. Everybody make a big circle. And so the students made a big circle and he put me in the middle of the circle. And he was like, I just came back from Japan on Wednesday and I was talking with Shakuni Sensei and Shakuni Sensei said, who is running your school while you're here? He was like, usually you don't have the option to travel. And he was like, oh, Mitsuaki's running the school. And he was like, oh, your son. And he was like, that's great. And so this is about maybe 4 years after my big speech.
The oath.
So it's about 4 years after the oath. And he's, I guess he's asking my dad, like, he's still doing it. And like, yeah, he's still doing it every day. He's, crazy about it and And he was like, and he's teaching all of the classes while you're gone, running the school. And my dad's like, yeah, he's even, planning the summer camp. And he goes, and he's still Shodan? And my father's like, yeah, he's still Shodan. And he's like, why are you so stupid? He was like, you need to go home and test your son. He was like, he's your best student and he's running everything. And you're making him wait 4 years to get second degree? He was like, what are you doing? He was like, do you want him to not do Taido? And of course, my father's like, my dream is for him to do Taido. And he was like, go fucking test him. So that's how I get tested, my second degree. For Nidan. He stops the ending of summer camp, makes everybody do a circle, puts me in the center, and he says, the hokei I taught you 2 nights ago, begin. In front of everyone.
Yeah. What's going through your mind?
Holy shit.
Thank God you practiced.
2 things go through my mind. Holy shit. And I need to start facing the ocean because it's going to be the easiest place to finish, and not lose my direction. So I face the ocean and start doing the hokei. It's one of the best hokeis I ever did. It's one of those few times where it was like I started the hokei and I had this really good feeling at the beginning. And then my next memory is that the hokei ends. Like I don't have a memory of the middle section of going. I don't have a memory of either kiai.
You were in the flow state.
Yeah, like I have a memory of the last test that I did 4 years ago. I remember the kiais. Like I have a good memory of that hokei. This hokei was different. I don't remember it almost at all. And I would give anything if I knew who had that on video because somebody exists that's no longer a Taido student that somewhere in their attic on a VHS or on one of those little, remember the little miniature ones that you have to have the adapter for?
Yep.
That's all. It's, dude, the Hokey of my life is in somebody's attic on some VHS. And it's one of the reasons why I'm so adamant about recording our events, because I'm having to tell you all these stories and I have no video that I can point back and show it to you. I can't show you a video of my test. I can't show you a video of my second, my 3rd degree test, my 4th degree test. I can't show you any of those videos. So, it's one of the reasons why I'm like really want to record whenever we spend time on a project. I want to get some type of recording of that because it's a lot of effort. And I think that, it's good for the next group and next generation to see, what people did and what people were willing to go through and whatnot. But,
that's why I want to have you on here to share these.
But
things.
yeah, so then I can lay claim to being the only student at US Taido who was tested directly at the request of Shakuni Sensei. Like I claim that he wrote my recommendation.
How does that make you
Not
feel?
wrote, but made. He made my recommendation. Makes me feel like the grandson of Taido. Because my dad is the son of Taido.
Yeah.
So it makes me feel like the grandson of Taido. Very nice feeling that he took time out of his day to pay attention to what I was doing across the ocean. And enough that he was like, you need to test your son. He's obviously doing good and fulfilling the oath. So you should test him. So it was nice. It was really nice.
So you tested, you passed.
And I still have that belt. That's the belt that I wear on some certain occasions. It's only has black and certain little patches on it. My 1st degree black belt I don't have. I gave it away to a family that we did a homestay with in Japan.
Oh, wow.
And one day I will go back and visit that family and they'll probably return the belt and I'll get my Shodan black belt back.
Wow.
But yeah, I have my knee done.
So when you tested and you got your knee done, you're what, 4 years? So you're 19, 20?
About 19.
Was there a conversation with your dad at that point? Was there ever a conversation from your father, him saying, I want you to now take the lead? Or was this kind of unspoken? It transitioned slowly
No,
over time?
it was a gradual transition over time. I think he was, the first thing is, it's not like that's his baby. Yeah. That's like he put so much time and energy into building that school up. And so that's like his baby. And so I don't think it's so easy for him to just turn it over. And like, I recognize that.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
so I was very willing to do it gradually. And so it was, started out with doing started out with really focusing on what was happening on the court. And then as time went on, he would be like, okay, now you needed to be the person who decides about the trophies and about the belts. You need to be the person who decides, are we going to renew the lease at this location or are we going to look for a new location? And it was a little more gradual, I think, so that I wasn't, so overwhelmed, but I think also so he could keep an eye on me and kind of like make sure I didn't do anything that would rock the boat too much. So, but there was never really but there have been times, it's funny that you ask, was there a time when my dad said, I'm turning it over to you? Yes, there was 50,000 times that my father said, I'm turning it over to you and you need to get your shit together. It's 50,000 times he told me that. I'm turning it over to you. I'm turning it over to you. You need to get your shit together. You need to have your everything lined up. He was like, you don't want to be the one that, like that previous guy, that we lose students because you're not doing it good. And so many, many times, Jordan, my father let me know that I was going to be taking it over, that I was in the act of taking it over, and that I needed to take it very seriously. And yeah, I'm at the point where he just teaches.
Yeah.
He comes to Taido and he teaches, and he doesn't have to worry about the bills or the credit card payment or the lease. And I don't do it all alone. Musashi tremendously helps me at Taido. Actually, I mean, he's doing most of the administration, which frees me up to really focus on, teaching and that side of it. But many times, lots of pressure, man. Japanese parents are good at pressure. Yeah. That's, in Japan, they say like you put the pressure on the coal to make the diamond. So
yeah, I've been a part of the school for 15 years, and over the since I got my black belt last 7 or 8, I've had an amazing privilege, thanks to you, to get to help work behind the scenes and help you guys teach and see the blood, sweat, and tears that really goes into it. And people do not understand the amount of hours and time and energy. What has kept your fire lit for 30 years of doing this? Because I mean this, Shahanda, I have a deep respect and admiration. I've been running Force Media for 6 years, man, and it's brutal. We talk about this randomly when we talk. It's really hard.
Really hard.
And seeing what you guys have done is so inspirational. How do you keep your fire lit to keep pushing forward? Because it's hard.
It is. It's really hard. It's really hard. Having my kids are a big inspiration. My kids are an inspiration that I wasn't able to draw upon until Francesca's 9. So the past 9 years. I want my kids to grow up being able to do Taido. I want my kids to grow up being able to go to Taido and to have quality instructors. And I want my kids to be able to go to Taido on Friday nights like y'all did. And I know that they're around Taido people and they're hanging out with Taido people and they're not out doing, bad things and getting in trouble. And so it's very important to me that my kids and that y'all's future kids have Taido to go to, because I think it's helped shape us so much that I would never want my kids to not have Taido. It's been such a good thing for me. Even outside of like being the instructor, I mean, just how it helped me with coordination, how it helped me be good at other sports, almost like naturally good at other sports, because Taido works so much of your coordination. You have to do everything on both sides. It's just so beneficial to you physically, just from the physical aspect. I got so much out of it that I would want my kids to do it, even if they didn't get all the other stuff that's so wonderful. Even if it was purely physical, it would be the first activity I'd want them to do. Before soccer, before tennis, before ballet, I would want them to do Taido. It's a full body workout. It involves gymnastics. It involves, it's esoteric. It's everything. It's got everything. You want to burn your legs. You want to do cardio. I have everything that you could ever want. You don't have to hurt your back lifting monster truck tires. We can duck walk.
No, thank you.
I have other ways to torture your body that don't require you getting injured, And so my children are a big part of it. Another big part of it is I have students that come in and try very hard. And that's always inspiring to me, to try hard to teach them, because they come in with a very deep level of sincerity. And so that makes me want to reciprocate. I think also I had a natural love. I mean, there's some people like, I love hearing about Jerry Rice's training, because Jerry Rice would be like 3 days after the Super Bowl. He'd be like, yeah, I take a break after the Super Bowl, 3 days. And then I'd be back to the gym, back to doing my drills, because I want to be the best guy in the league. And I know that nobody else is doing their drills 3 days after the Super Bowl. And so like, I really believe in that work ethic that, you are supposed to work hard. I think you're supposed to. I think that is the default, is that people should work hard. Whether you are a stay-at-home parent, a janitor, or the president, you should have crazy good work ethic, and you should strive to be the best stay-at-home parent or janitor or CEO or president that you could possibly be. And that's what my father taught me. Like, you don't need to be the shuyaku. You don't need to be the star. And actually the star is being held up by 5 other people. So, I don't mind. I never minded being one of the 5 guys who holds up the other guy. I never was like, I need to be the one guy. And actually, I don't know that I ever had the gift physically to do it as well as so many other people. Like, I can't move like Romick. I can't move like Ethan or Connor, or, I mean, like, I just can't. I never had that type of body to move like that. I'm built more like a linebacker than a wide receiver. So all of my techniques tended to be linebacker techniques, So, but, another thing is you grow up watching your father, and it inspires you. You're telling me I'm how do I do this for 30 years? How does my dad do it for 46 years?
Yeah.
He's still do you know what his favorite thing is? You know what my father, it's so funny, man, how he is. Sensei's favorite thing is a new student come in the door and he gets to do the tryout lesson. You don't know. You have to fight him to do the tryout lessons. Like, one of Musashi recently was like, hey, these are my neighbors. And my dad was like, I don't care. I'm going to teach. Musashi's like, but, okay, just, be nice to them because they're my neighbors. So he's going to do it his way, but he still has the fire. When he sees, new students come in, he gets the fire. I can see him get excited. And so I get excited too. I'm pretty easily excitable. It doesn't take a whole lot for me to get excited. So I think that's another part. Yeah. I'm always ready to be loud, to be excitable. And so, but some days it's hard to go in and give your best. And I can't sit here and tell you that I gave my best every single day I've ever done Taido. There are days when I had fights with my wife and I didn't perform. I didn't teach at my highest level. There were days when, I got a bill that maybe I wasn't expecting and maybe was going to be difficult to pay, and it affected my teaching that day. Or maybe even currently, I could tell you, I've had days where like kids are being really difficult, and then I go to Taido and it takes me a couple classes to like recalibrate and to recenter. And so, even today, I still have days that are more difficult than other days, but I also try my best when I walk into Taido. You go in the office and then Shakuni Sensei's gi is right there when you walk in. And so every time I go in the office, I look up at his gi and I remember I'm here by choice. Like, nobody made me take the oath to do Taido for my life. I'm here by choice. And my choice was to do this. And I'm blessed. Even on the days when it's hard or on the days when I'm in a bad mood, I'm so blessed to be a teacher of Taido that it makes it easy to show up to work every day. Because it's the famous quote, man, you do the thing you love and you don't work a day the rest of your life.
Yeah.
So yeah, there are some days like I don't like folding gis and taking them to embroidery and this, like, there are things that I don't enjoy doing. Like I don't enjoy unpacking and repacking gis so that they'll be embroidered. Like I get no pleasure out of that. It's a very mundane activity, but as a small business owner, that's my path. My path is that I'm not here paid for a certain skill set and that's what I get paid for. And I don't clean fucking toilets. That's not like I do clean I clean toilets I clean toilets twice a day as a small business owner. I mop floors twice a day. I vacuum and dust twice a day. So yeah, man, there's times when I'm like, I don't want to do this. Dude, I had 2 boxes of trophies arrive the other day, all individually bubble wrapped. Like that was not something I wanted. That was not a box I wanted to open, you know? And so like, yeah, there's days and aspects, but when it's teaching and like you get out on the court and the court has the smell of like sweat, you know, and hard work, and you hear the ich ni san shi, and like psh, that's all you need to hear. And it's like psh, fire's lit. Let's go. And then sometimes I get too intense, man. I got to calm down, you know? Like even now at 44 years old and 30 years later, I get too intense and I got to be like, oh man, these are kids. They're not ready for that type of intensity.
Yeah.
You know? But like my wife and my mom tell me, you're a pretty intense person. So
you have to be though in your position.
yeah.
I think if you weren't intense, people wouldn't follow.
I think, yeah. You can't just be like, charge. You have to be like, charge. You know, if you're just like, charge, nobody comes.
You know who you remind me of? Leonidas. I'm serious.
Thank you.
You really do.
No, because I love the movie, and
I'd
like,
follow you into battle.
even. Thank you, man. Thank you very much.
I would follow you into battle.
Thank you very much.
Last question before we wrap up, Sensei. What does the spirit of Taido mean to you?
The spirit of Taido is comes from Dr. Shakuni, and the spirit of Taido is the spirit that, number one, we can reconcile our cultural differences. That Taido can be a vehicle of bringing people who've had some type of difference or bad blood. And through Taido, you can reconcile this. So I firmly believe that Taido could be a vehicle. It is a vehicle. Last night, I had Palestinians and Jews in the same class, sweating. Probably not even aware that do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
the guy next to him,
idea.
do you know what I'm saying? Probably unaware.
You're just training together.
Just training. And we're all there for the same thing. We are there to better ourselves as individuals. We are there to try to make a positive impact on society by bettering ourselves as individuals. And Shakuni Sensei said so many times, he wanted to bring cultures together. He wanted to bring different nationalities together to have fellowship, international fellowship, so that we can try to heal the world. Because as an Okinawan, he grew up in his 20s in war, you know, the World War II. That's his generation. He watched Okinawa get burned to the ground, you know, like totally destroyed. You know, the Battle of Okinawa was really, really brutal battle. And so it affected him greatly going through the war, and the fact that he made it through the war. And, you know, what is my purpose? All my friends have died. All my neighbors are dead, but I'm still here. What's my purpose? And so, you know, he actually went and kind of lived as like a hermit, like on an island, like, because Okinawa's, you got the main island, but it's many hundreds and hundreds of islands, and kind of like went and lived like a little bit of a secluded recluse lifestyle. And that's where he started inventing new techniques. And so once he had enough students, he wanted them to go around the world. And so there was a Japanese gentleman Tanaka Sensei right now is very associated with Finland, but the first Japanese guy that went there was a different guy. And Shakuni Sensei was like, go spread it, go spread it, go spread it, go spread it. And I think that him sending my father to America had special significance because America was the country that burned Okinawa to the ground. And so here he is sending one of his best students who maybe could have been a huge asset to him in Japan. My father is the kind of person, I think that if he had stayed in Japan, it's very probable that he would have eventually become the number 2 guy. He just has that charisma, Yeah. And so, he sent one of his best prospects to America. And he loved America. He really loved America. He loved visiting here. He said America is a big sky country. He said that in America, the sky is bigger than anywhere else. He said, when you look up, the sky looks so big and it gives you like a feeling of hope. And he loved visiting America. He said, when I come to America, I feel like I've totally recharged my body and like a detoxify almost, which is funny because Japanese have such a better diet than Americans do. So he comes here to detoxify on Coca-Cola and like cheeseburgers, but it's a mental, emotional detoxification, And so, I think that getting people together, especially people who had maybe had bad history or bad blood, and improving yourself. And through the improvement of the self, we can make society better. And I think that all 3 of these things are so important today. And I think we're having so much trouble today because people don't reconcile and people don't better themselves and people are not worried about their impact on society. And so society suffers, the individual suffers, and, hope gets lost, like I heard on the radio today on the way here, it's like, 35% of Americans feel like we're going in the right direction, which means what? 65% of us feel like we're going in the wrong direction, which is not a feeling of hope, right? So I think that the world could just use that positive influence that Taido gives. And like I said, it's so nice to look into class and I have Black students and white students and Latino students and Asian students all in the same class, all treating everybody, with respect I think that he can look down from heaven and see US Taido and think they're doing it right. They're doing what I wanted to be done. It wasn't something I just built for Japan. It wasn't something that is, you have to be Japanese to understand. I built something for everyone and they're really doing it for everyone over there. So I told my dad the other day, I was like, Taido wasn't born in America, but Taido lives here.
Yeah.
Even though it wasn't born here. So, but it's like, has nothing to do with kicks and punches, man. That's the funniest part about it.
So much deeper.
It has nothing to do with kicks and punches. It's all about the fellowship, the camaraderie, and improving, improving. And I've been doing it for so many years and I have so much room to improve. Every day I try to improve a little more and I discover new methods, new ways to teach kids every day. I have a new kid because every kid's different. So like the kid I'm teaching now that's difficult is difficult in a way that I've never had a kid be difficult before. And the technique that I'm going to use to get that kid to trick him almost into trying hard and to trick him into becoming like a good student. He's like, I don't know what it is. I have to discover it. And I think that's one of the things that's so cool about my life in Taido is the interaction with individuals and learning how to, You know, the way to inspire you is not the way to inspire him, is not the way to inspire him. It's all different. And I have to try to find out the way to inspire each person so that everybody is improving. And because we all need inspiration. I need inspiration. I wake up and I play the I Am a Champion video, or dude, today I was listening to gospel on the way here. I had to turn it off. No joke. I started like feeling the emotion coming up, and I like had to I'd be okay. Not going to arrive like looking like I just cried, you know? And so yeah, man, I think that we all have to find our inspiration, you know, where we find it, where we feel like, you know, everybody is inspired by different things. You know, Christiani, my wife, she gets very inspired when she hears people telling stories about how they've overcome depression or overcome addiction. And that's not my field. That's her field. And so she gets super inspired by that. And that makes her want to be a better therapist. And it's the same way for me. When I see the kids struggle with a technique or struggle with something that I know I can help him with, it's just so it makes me want to help the kid. It makes me want to, you know, help him become better. And then you see that confidence that wasn't there the moment before. It's like, it's almost like you see growth, you know, like the kid looks at you like, I just did a cartwheel.
You do. You see it right in front of you.
You know, and it's really nice. And that's Shakuni Sensei's, you know, genius. But he knew. He told all of the guys in Japan, he said, United States focus on children. Y'all are all focusing on the university clubs. They're focusing on the children. He's like, you need to focus on children. So now recently you've seen more children focused dojos in Japan, but that's only in the past 7 or 8 years since they figured out like they're really doing it the right way over there. So then they try to copy.
Yeah. Well, Sensei, thank you, number one, for coming and sharing these stories today. I definitely want to have you back on multiple more times. We've got a lot more to cover and more stories. Thank you for giving the oath 40 years ago, 30 years ago, and devoting yourself to Taido. You have changed my life for the better. Vance and Rogan behind the camera, I know you've changed their lives. And just from the bottom of my heart, Sensei, I appreciate you. I cherish you. And like I said, we'll all follow you into the battle.
Thank you.
Wherever
Thank
it
you.
goes.
Thank you. And I promise to choose the battles wisely that we go to.
Thank you for sharing the stories.
Thank you so much, man. I really appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely. And for everybody watching, thank you guys for tuning in and watching today. We will definitely have Mitsuaki back on later to share more stories because I got all these notes. We didn't even get into any of them. So we're going to talk about more later. But United States Taido Karate, if you guys want to learn more, there's a lot of videos on YouTube. You can go on their website. If you do live in the Atlanta area, I'd say please go check out a class for yourself, for your children, for friends and family. It's good for anyone of all ages. And we will see you guys next week for another episode of Find Your Edge. Thank you. Take care.
Peace out.